Hey everyone, Valrion here. This is a story about my underdog journey in the Grand Zenith tournament. Unlike most games, the top level PvP in Onmyoji is designed with imbalance in mind. Each player has their own unique tools, honed through grind, RNG, and most importantly, time. Being a relatively new PvP player in the top ranks, my 1600 days experience pales in comparison to the 2000s club that my peers are in, and this results in a disadvantage that I must overcome. It is like a marathon, whereas others have years worth of head starts on me. For me, it seemed hopeless to ever come near that podium, let alone stand on it. However, a few months ago in March, I was shown a different path. Whilst chilling during the past Zenith tournament, I played an unorthodox SP Cruiser sniper team and reached a final rank of 18. This team relied on competing for first move, and I could tell that I would be unable to break into the upper ranks if I directly fought in this dimension where I am at a disadvantage. And so, I was forced to adapt my strategies. Whether it was fate or not, one day I chanced upon a small Bilibili creator who posted great results with account specs worse than mine. This is such a rare find because the China server tutorial videos typically demonstrates accounts that are impossible to emulate due to the soul strength requirements they have. Thus, I would like to quickly but proudly introduce the SP Inaba Kaguya and SSR Taki core composition. You may have heard me talking about first and second speed play, and in Onmyoji this refers to team compositions that have varying amounts of dependency to take the initiative in battle. First speed type teams aims to put souls with high speed onto key Shikigami so they can act before the opponent and thus strike, eliminate or cripple the enemy team, often ending the fight before it begins. Second speed teams accept the lack of initiative and opt to weather the storm and find opportunities to counter attack. The Inabataki comp is the essence of second speed play. Before getting into the details of the composition, one of the most important aspects of it lies with the ban mechanic in PvP. In high tier duels, both sides can ban one Shikigami out of the hundreds available, and this is critical to our strategy. Common bans are typically powerful Shikigami that form the backbones of teams like Susanoo, SP Enma, SP Angaikyo, and SP Shuten. Instead, we are banning an Orba, SP Oitsuki, a ban that has faded into obscurity. For teams that doesn't heavily contest first speed, SP Oitsuki can be a nightmare to deal with because she can free up the player of almost all orb concerns. Combine it with a loaded kit of attack boost, speed boost, dispel, and anti-orb steal, she is a pillar that grants players versatility to torture the opponents in all kinds of ways. Since there are very few players that go for this option, opponents have much less research on this type of ban, and it is way harder to counter. This is the ban to go for if you want to limit the avenues that faster players can attack you with. For the team composition, there is obviously the namesake Shikigamis that form the team, which are SP Kaguya and Taki. As for our speed, is distributed among 3 Shikigami, a plus 154.5 Azure SP Enma, a plus 155 Broken Set SSR Enma, and a plus 155 Fortune Cat SP Angaikyo. While you may think this is impressive, it pales massively to the top players who can field similar quality sets at 158 to 159 speed. Other notably impressive sets that I built is my Soul Taker SP Shishio, my SP Kiromaru, and my SSR Taishakusen. I chose to dilute my speed in favor for versatility so that I would have more options to counter whatever I face. I started using this comp in April and got a solid 3 months worth of practice with excellent results before the tournament arrived. The beginning qualifying section of the Grand Zenith tournament contained very similar elements to the last one in March. It basically drops all players 4 tiers below their rank and give a 1-week qualifying period in which you must reach Celebrity tier at 3000 ELO to advance to the playoffs. To be very honest, it was a little nerve-wracking even for high tier players because below Celebrity tier has no bans available, which basically is a wild west chaotic type of environment. Furthermore, it would also hurt my confidence if I were to struggle at the first hurdle before playing in the big leagues. So instead of the popular idea among celeb tier duelists to create a different team to play with, I simply chose to stick with my second speed playstyle and counter whatever my opponent picked. I didn't record the fights on my main, so all of this you see is footage on my alt account's climb. I was fairly confident with them because my alt's teams are dedicated to the under celebrity playstyle. In the end, there was really no need to stress. I qualified easily, only needing 23 wins to comfortably make it to the playoffs. Once the qualifying rounds are over, those that made it into Celebrity tier are elevated to 500 stars, an enclosed environment that won't be affected by non-qualified players. In the old Zenith tournaments, we will be given 3 to 4 days to duel, and whoever ended up with the highest number of stars will then be crowned the winner. However, this Grand Zenith tournament has a few more stages left to go. With over 1,000 people in the playoffs, only the top 128 will make it to the next round, where they'll be seeded into the tournament bracket that goes down from 128, 64, 32, and so forth, culminating in one winner. To add more pressure to the playoffs, NetEase implemented a limit of battles each day to prevent feeding wins with throwaway accounts. This means that once we lose 10 times, we will no longer be able to duel and advance our rankings for the day. Each win is now critical. This is on top of the already exhausting PvP time slots for players of certain time zones. For me, the 2 slots per day rests at 3 to 5 AM and 10 AM to 12 PM. My strategy was to pace myself in the 4 days by aiming for certain progress milestones. The CN server tournament version had the top 128 cutoff mark at around 570 stars, and with the global server being only a fraction of the size, I anticipated the cutoff being around 540 stars. The biggest gains would definitely be on day 1, where players of all skill calibers are thrown into the melting pot, and smaller gains in subsequent days once the matchmaking pool shrinks to the stronger players. I had a very successful day 1, ending at 523 stars with only 3 out of 10 losses. Day 2 was particularly annoying due to earning 531 stars, then getting a bit greedy and losing 7 games rapidly, only barely recovering to 529 stars. And now, I will post some of the highlight games of the playoffs. I would like to apologize in advance because usually when I'm nervous I love to rotate the camera a lot, so it would seem a little jittery from my perspective. Thank you. Enjoy.
So hard to save. Hallowed by my love for you, always stop me going under. Follow every step I take, 'cause I was a coming down. God, you are the devil, running through my mind. I can't get on your level. I swear to God I tried. I am not at this spell. Turn around and turn ahead. You can't help me anymore. Oh my God, you are the devil. Stuck in the back of my head and I'm dead. I got the devil inside me and everything there is seems red. Vision's blurry, I'm in a hurry, my skin is starting to shed quick. Call up the doctor, swallow some pills, maybe I'll wake up in bed. I'm a disaster, can't I move faster, honey, I'm off the edge. No point stopping me, I'm not your property, gotta take care of my ledge. My friends are dead, I'm losing my head, I gotta get off these meds. I am unstable, willing and able, give you this body to pledge. Oh my God, you are the devil.
end of the playoffs, I had secured 542 stars, overshooting the 128 cutoff by more than 10 stars and actually placing 11th among the server. This actually provided me with a unique advantage in the following tournament bracket because you cannot immediately match against people in the same quartile as you, so I won't be immediately facing some of the strongest opponents. The scheduled times for the bracket run is brutal. Each round follows a rotation for me of 1 PM, 3 PM, 1 AM, and 3 AM. Now, I would like to apologize in that I had not planned to make a video at this point, so I didn't manage to record my round of 128. Nevertheless, I can relate exactly what had happened. My opponent in the first round was Ryan, an unknown player to me, and while I can also view their profile and see their top picks like mine, Shikigami picks are always fluid, so you cannot put too much faith in them. My plan at this point is to play what I am confident in and adapt to what my opponents do. So, on Saturday 1 PM, I entered the waiting lobby. 5 minutes later, I exited with a clean 2-0 because my opponent failed to show up. The whole round of 128 was chaos due to a misunderstanding in how the bracket was run. Since there was an allotted time of 1.5 hours with matches capped at 10 minutes, most thought that you could start anytime within the allotted section. However, not being in the preparation lobby right on the dot meant immediately forfeiting the first game, and not being ready after that 5-minute break forfeits game 2. I had entered the top 64 on a stroke of luck, and that would not last. My opponent this time, from Bambi Guild, I apologize if I mispronounce everyone's names, is 明天又是新的一天. I'm going to just call them tomorrow. They had come from the top 128 in the same manner as I, from a forfeit. Now their profile displays a formidable team revolving around the leftmost Shikigami, SSR Shiranui. She empowers the normal attacks of your team, and those compositions rely on this unique strength to win. This time, I had recorded my match, and now I will be able to do voiceover commentary through it. The ban phase went as expected. I banned SP Oitsuki, which is my style, and Shiranui-centric teams typically ban Susanoo to avoid being wiped instantly. Remember how I told you guys earlier not to put too much faith in profile viewing? Because immediately, the SP Ungaikyo first pick shows a complete deviation from the Shiranui-centric teams. In the following picks, my opponent fell into my first trap. Deploying SSR Senhime is a common strategy against SP Kaguya due to her mechanics in draining orbs, which can also deep freeze when my orbs reach 0, disabling my Shikigami. This is made easier against SP Kaguya, who trades regular orbs into wish power, which has a function like orbs, but will cause SSR Senhime to start freezing your team members. However, Onmyoji is not played as a 1-to-1 matchup. I can pick Kododama, which is my third Shikigami, and she can neutralize SSR Senhime from casting her freezing spell to tampering with opponent's orbs by inserting fake ones. Opponent skills are nullified if their orb cost is less than or equal to the number of fake orbs. I picked an unconventional SP Mio as my 5th pick because their 4th pick SP Musubi is a greedy one that takes time to become extremely powerful, and I want immediate upfront damage to end the game fast. We then postured around, setting up our team for the first few minutes, with me trying to get an opportunity to bring my SP Mio in to deal massive damage. I found an opening minutes later and ripped apart the opponent's SP Musubi and cleaned up the game afterwards.
been exposed like this before. I'm good at shutting you out. I've always had a way of keeping closed. Beating, hiding, I've been calling out your name from the darkness, thinking it's too late.
In Game 2, Tomorrow seems to have realized that the SSR Senhime was getting nullified, and they switched to SSR Kaguya for their Orba. This was arguably one that has an even worse interaction against Kododama, but the pick provides additional defense against SP Mio. I was not planning on repeating SP Mio again, as it is just a niche pick for the particular situation. My opponent showed SSR Haku, and I cannot emphasize enough how much I hate this pick in general if it isn't to reactively respond to a threat. Their last pick is forced to be the main damage dealer, and while SP Kyo is a powerful duelist Shikigami because she can remove a single target's right to life, if she cannot direct her snake onto an enemy, she becomes useless. And that's exactly what I did. Seimei's shield blocks her targeting, and my opponent has no damage to break the shield. This was a brutal game from start to end.
Since you got me out in the open, now I'm ready to dive in. I know you told you it would be a slow burn. Beating, hiding, I've been calling out your name from the darkness, thinking it's too late. If you're faded, I've been too much on your plate. I'll keep hiding, calling out your name, calling out your name.
Whether it was a coincidence or not, I matched up against an opponent in the round of 32 that banned Taki. This meant the removal of rice in fried rice, or the wheels of a bike, or the Taki in the Inaba Taki comp. This opponent was B-Bot, who had a formidable showing in the round of 64, knocking out one of the earliest dialogues on my friend list. Their comp is Shiranui-centric again, but focused around the co-op mechanic, in which when one Shikigami normal attacks, others can also join in on the fun. This is a very dangerous composition that doesn't use SP Oitsuki at all, so my ban has no effect. However, there's a saying, better the devil you know than the one you don't. I think that switching up my bans will alter what they are doing, and so for me it is easier to figure out a counter when my opponent is predictable. That counter call ended up being my first two picks, Soul Edge SP Shuten and Tree Nymph SP Hanya. SP Hanya can seal the passive and soul effects of the enemy team if he gets a chance to move, which neutralizes co-op teams because the co-op normal attacks and their damage comes from passive and soul effects. In the first game, I played the perfect counter to my opponent's team. SP Onikiri to seal off all attempts at co-op, and Kujaku as the ace that cleans my opponent up. this point, I have an overwhelming advantage and I just need to close out the match. In the second match, I opened up with the same picks, and so did B-Bot. However, they made adaptations of an SP Mio deployment for the third pick, which does really well into my picks in the last game. Then, they made a switch back into co-op with a surprising SP Yamakaze into SP Onmyoji pick, which ended up being disastrous for me. I only realized my mistake upon playing the Susanoo to counter the SP Mio on 4th pick, and tried to recover with a desperate SP Yuki pick on the 5th. My SP Yuki is used to disable their SP Onmyoji, but they managed to target correctly to break out of the control, and later on, a costly micro mistake costed me the game. It was an unfortunate loss due to a misplace on my part, and my first loss in the bracket run. I had to come up with a new plan to deal with this SP Mio, and I found a good solution during the 5-minute break between the matches. SP Shishio can punish the free attacks of SP Mio while also keep the SP Onmyoji in check. He has the ability to be immune to debuffs and can inflict Vine Bound, which cuts damage to 0. It is a perfect solution to my problems. Upon finishing the 4th pick, I suddenly got a weird feeling. A very sus feeling. Let's take a look at Bebot's past matches. SP Mio and SP Momiji showing up so early in these picks. It smells like a trap. On match point, throwing caution into the wind, I picked up SSR Enma to counter, knowing that I would be in a really bad spot if I predicted incorrectly. But that was not the case. With SSR Enma suppressing that SSR Orochi, I navigated carefully around the match and finally secured the win. Entering top 16 was my goal of this tournament, and I was ecstatic to have reached this far. However, I am now encountering some of the most formidable opponents in the server. Xpec is a veteran of the scene and one that constantly gets the better of me on the regular ladder. Their profile view scares me like no other. An outsider may recognize Hatsume Miku, but any serious Onmyoji player knows the infamy of the SP Senhime and Miku combo that is terrorizing the current ladder. With SP Oitsuki banned out, I was so sure I would be facing this team archetype. So you can imagine my breath of relief in seeing SP Angaikyo first pick, followed by SSR Senhime. We ended up in a mirror matchup of Angai, Shuten, Senhime, Susanoo, with the difference in that Xpec chose SP Menreiki. I have played this mirror matchup countless times, and I know that I can respond to the first speed SP Menreiki with my own SP Miketsu. However, my experience in this matchup also tells me that I have a 25% chance to outright lose in the first 2 turns. Why is that? Because my Azure Basan Soul is on SP Enma, I can only afford to run the Fortune Cat Soul on my SSR Senhime. Without the orb consistency granted by Azure, I must rely on Fortune Cat to trigger to sustain the orbs on my first 2 rotations. I have 2 Fortune Cat users and I just need 1 to trigger. This means that I have a straight up 25% chance to lose and I have no choice but to take this gamble. While I got the Fortune Cat trigger, it only meant that the game continues normally. Except for the fact that my SP Miketsu decides to absolutely pop off. She can inflict 1 of 4 different debuffs, and she managed to inflict the most crippling ones every single time without fail. Silence for the Senhime and Angai, and the most important was the passive seal on SP Shuten. This blew the game wide open, and I took advantage to snatch victory. In game 2, we both ran it back, this time playing the most cookie cutter standard picks, mirroring SSR Suzuka in the last slot. In a Suzuka vs Suzuka mirror, it is extremely technical and soul dependent. The fastest Suzuka player must play extremely precisely with only 1 correct path forward to maintain control. and I once again had to casino gamble the 50-50 Fortune Cat proc. Surprisingly, X-Pac went straight for the kill, but hesitated at the last second to instead pass the SP Unguide turn to Suzuka instead of Susanoo, allowing my Susanoo to survive. And I have to give credit to my Susanoo's HP build, which enabled him to live as long as he did. The table suddenly shifted in my favor, and I managed to close out the game 2-0.
Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down. Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in your eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it rain. Tonight, we gonna let it rain. Tonight, we gonna let it just like the sunrise. We gonna let it rain. Just like a spark that's breaking out. Can't make a stop, can't turn back now. We know that there's no room for doubt.
It may not look like it, but it was a grueling fight that could have gone either way. It was 3 AM where I was, and after the round of 16, I just wanted to stay up a little bit just to see who my quarterfinal opponent will be.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
My time has come.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. My luck has come to an end. My opponent for the quarterfinals is Lin Lam. If you look at the profile frame, that is the frame of dominance, of victory, of being the #1 player in the last Zenith tournament. The disparity between the quality of our accounts is on a completely different dimension. This is a player that I cannot defeat in terms of account quality. But what about brains and strategy? You see, some players are rather smart. They may have a kick-ass whale account, but they do recognize their own knowledge limitation and perhaps bring in another individual or group that is more experienced, perhaps one that has, experienced the same tournament a month ago. Now, I will refer to them as the shadowy triad. So that means that I am outgunned in the smarts department too. Nevertheless, with 10 hours left before the match, I slept a little and I did some research and cooking. Because I was an unknown player in the PvP scene, I felt that I could play that to my advantage. I wanted to first conceal my SP Oitsuki ban and try to draw them into a familiar situation for them. I know their ban is SP Shooten, and the CN tournament finals was all about that. I want to draw them into a familiar situation with Senhime, Susanoo, and SP Shishio, and surprise them perhaps by bringing a unique pick. Faster players love flexing their speed to dominate, and I aim to try and draw out a Mystrile pick from them. 20 minutes before it started, I cooked something so stupid, but I'd already resigned to my fate. It was a Mirror Lady SSR Senhime. The plan was to rely on a 30% chance to miraculously one-shot the opponent Susanoo as they attacked my Senhime. Okay, as I record this, it sounds so dumb. Typically, opponents love to shut down Senhime as the priority target to reduce their orb generation. And so I banked on that knowledge to try to backfire on the opponent, and so I can have an opportunity to counterattack. I really didn't test this out, and I tried it a few times before making this video. This was a god-awful cook, and in over 20 attempts, I did not manage to get the opponent Susanoo, which is on my old account, killed. My plan in the draft was to draw out Susanoo, Sen, Shishio, and then for me to fourth pick the SP Ungai, maybe to deter an SSR Enma pick, and pray for that Mystrile 5th pick. However, the plan went completely off the rails right at the beginning. As always, when they picked out the SP Ungai, I was suddenly very uncertain, but I wanted to continue anyways. The fourth pick SP Aeon was fairly greedy in my opinion, which aimed for long-term suppression advantages, so I picked up an SSR Miketsu as a direct counter. However, Lilam did not show the Mystrile, but rather the SP Mio, which is also an alternative method to get rid of my Senhime. SP Mio basically sees damages on the opponent and uses her extra attacks to rip it wide open. You can see in the previous game against X-Pac just how much Susanoo can do at the start, and with SP Mio amplifying that damage, she will definitely take out any normal SSR Senhime. In a fantastic turn of events, the Mirror Lady SSR Senhime with her HP slot survived the initial onslaught, and my SSR Miketsu locked the hell in. The game is not over, and taking only the first of the set is just the beginning. In game 2, I wanted to continue keeping my opponent off balance. I switched it up back to my SP Oitsuki band and prepared to handle any adjustments they will make. However, Lilam didn't take the Game 1 loss sitting down. They banned out SSR Senhime, which is something I had never encountered before, and threw me off balance instead. I tried going for my usual picks, but they ended up taking the upper hand. The Shishio was way less useful here and I was dismantled quite easily. I felt that there could have been some aspects to play better, but overall I was a bit too nervous to draft things like an SP Enma to compete for speed. In Game 3, I decided that if they continued to ban SSR Senhime, then I would make use of their original ban, SP Shuten Doji, to keep their Susanoo in check. I picked up the SP Susabi to take advantage of their SP Kaguya Orbit choice, and then picked up a CC in SP Kidomaru that can avoid being blasted by that SP Enma on the first turn. I personally found it a little interesting that they chose SSR Suzuka as the last pick for both games, Game 2 and 3, because SSR Suzuka is the counter to SSR Miketsu, and they might have been pretty scarred by the SSR Miketsu in Game 1. Somehow, I managed to defy the odds, and now I have hope to advance further. My semi-finals opponent is a more familiar one. It is actually rather comforting to finally face a familiar account again, but I cannot let my guard down. Like me, Maple has run through a gauntlet to reach the semis, and I need to be very, very careful. In their profile, they do show the Hatsume Miku again, and so I need to be on guard against the Sen Miku composition. The semi-finals are different than the quarters in that it is now a best of 5. This means that I need to win 3 games to advance instead of 2, which reduces the impact of cheeses and surprise wins. You may have noticed the game looks a little different here. That is because I forgot to record game 1, but luckily my guildie Agua was able to capture it from the spectator's POV. Thank you again for letting me borrow this footage. Now back to the game. I am on the left side here and facing my worst fears, a classic Sen Miku team with Kamaitachi 3rd pick. I had expected it against X-Pac, so I slammed down the surprise preparation I made for this, and it is the Garuda. Now typically, global server players really like the Susanoo 5th pick, and so I picked up the Hiyoribo to counter that accordingly.
That's a lot of damage. How about a little more?
Told my boss that I'm done. Had no luck with my mom. Say, what will you do with your life? You know it's hard to survive. A cigar in my mouth. Maybe guilty but proud.
In game 2, we tried the same matchup again. Upon seeing the Enma 3rd pick, I opted to not run the Garuda because it works best against a Kamaitachi, and instead focus on a standard Sen Miku counter, and that is using a 5th pick SP Susabi.
Yeah. Sometimes I get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, I might grab a bat, I don't know. My wrath, my blood boils over like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show. So have you ever felt betrayed? Switches how you see things, realize something needs change. Cause I know you got me f***ed up. Let me show you what's up. Cause enough is enough. I'll take a face full of pavement just to make a statement. I know there's no turning back. Oh God, adrenaline wasted, so mad I can taste it. I know there's no turning back. I'll do what it takes, I ain't making mistakes like that. I'll bleed on your face to make you go take it back. I'll lose my shit, I go crazy when I'm mad. And now you go wish you would shut the fuck up real bad. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. I'll take smoke, I'ma poke a hole for you, choking's overdue. Come at me and you won't get any older, dude. Crack your holder too. Heating up inside of me, blood so violently. Thanks for trying me. Now it's finally time to see how this rivalry becomes a dynasty. Oh God, adrenaline wasted, so mad I can taste it. I know there's no turning back. I'll do what it takes, I ain't making mistakes like that. I'll bleed on your face to make you go take it back. I'll lose my shit, I go crazy when I'm mad. And now you go wish you would shut the fuck up real bad. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back. And now that I'm gone, yeah, I know there's no turning back.
I am so glad that I didn't have to face Senmuku with Kododama ban a third time. Luckily, Maple transitioned into an SP Ungai ban and I am able to play my speciality, that is Inabataki. I chose not to play Kododama myself because I know it is rather limited against SP Kaguya, and so I opted for the long-term value with SP Enmu, who then bonds with SP Enma. SP Enmusubi, once set up, will grant double turns to a specific ally, and that will prove invaluable to win. All I need to do is to survive the initial onslaught.
But please don't stay the night. Don't try to change my mind. Baby, please don't stay the night. Let's do what's right. Don't make me ask you twice. Ooh, don't stay the night. Don't try to turn it to a fight. You know I love you by my side. Just don't stay the night. Right. I'm done being polite. Oh, don't stay tonight. She'll always find a way around it. I thought she'd be gone, but when I woke up in the morning, she was laying beside me. She know when she wanted. I can never turn her down. Oh, I probably should have kicked her out by now. But you're the finest of them all. Made me lose my self-control. All I wanna do is make you feel alright. You drive me crazy, turn me on, and that's the reason I'ma let you go. Cause you and I both know that we can't keep it quiet. So please don't stay the night. Don't try to change my mind.
I was shell-shocked after this win. A clean 3-0 sweep into the finals is more than I could dream of. and I was so touched on how many people messaged me prior to the finals wishing me luck. However, I was running on empty already. 7 days functioning on 4 hours of sleep per day, and with the finals at 3 AM, I was woefully unprepared both in-game and out. What's worse is that this match isn't up against a new individual player, but a rematch against the shadowy triad that had stopped in the quarters, and this time they are prepared against me.
Gave you too much, now I'm swallowed. Now I'm a fool, why you
For my opponent, I will simply call them Van, who is the owner of the account. Alright, so for the first match, I saw that their past fights are all about that SP Shooting ban with Senhime, Susanoo, SP Shishio, and I wanted to try recreate the same success I had against Ninlam. However, I was completely surprised by the Kododama ban. I took a huge risk in deviating from my original SP Oitsuki ban in hopes to catch the SP Shooting ban, but this new ban backfired on me, and now I have very little idea on how to be able to play this out. Now what you see here is another sole difference. If my SP Ungai was faster than theirs, I might have stood a chance.
all of the pain seems to follow like a shadow dark and cold to the touch.
In Game 2, I chose to play what I am best in, the SP Oitsuki ban, and I hope that when against the Kododama ban, it is possible to play a Susanoo, SSR Sen, SP Shuten, SP Ungai Kyo mirror matchup, just like against X-Pac. However, they revealed another surprise, a classic Sen Miku with Kamai third pick. And while my first instinct is to bring forth the Garuda again, I know that they know about the pick since it was shown in the semifinals. And so I had a dilemma. The 3 big 5th pick counters to the Garuda are Susanoo, SP Emma, and SP Shishio. My 5th pick can only precisely address only one of the 3, and I have to make a gamble. Kyo Revo Ants counters Susanoo, SSR Ungai is fine against Enma, and I believe Muketsu is good against the SP Shishio. In the end, I opted for the Muketsu because it can potentially be alright against the other counters, and I chose using the Soul Edge version to help more against the Susanoo instead of the high effect res Sinesio version. However, my opponent brought forth the SP Enma, so I guessed incorrectly, and unfortunately with my lower res Niketsu, I am unable to defend against this incoming CC. Furthermore, I was really unprepared against a Sen Miku, and so my Senhime souls were incorrect. I should have been wearing Meryl instead of Fortune Cap. In Game 3, whether I was tired or had given up, I made an error in picking SP Kingyo 4th pick and basically forfeited the match once they signed the death blow with the last pick, SP Orochi. Looking back at it wistfully, Perhaps I should have prepared, a Hail Mary speed comp. But at the time, to ask a solely second speed player to play first speed is a daunting endeavor. And so game 3 ended in record time, and I can finally rest, albeit at a 0-3. Although I didn't have a great showing in the finals, I can be content in that I had performed far beyond expectations. I came in as an underdog, evolved into the tournament dark horse, and left my mark that can be viewed in the Hall of Fame. Since Onmyoji is still active and going, I plan to continue competing and strive for that #1 spot next time. This video took a lot out of me to make, and if you are still watching at the end, thank you for following this story of mine. If you wish to see more in the future, make sure you like and subscribe. And now, I will go get some sleep. Goodbye.